What up, street guys, street togs, street body weight tog blog bodybuilding blog nogs. Okay, some thoughts. Why quote quote genetics is a scam? So, I mean, if you have been keeping up with the progression of EK, something I'm very interested and passionate about. I've actually always been passionate about this since I was like 12 years old. Is like diet, health, fitness, working out, wellness, blah blahs, bodybuilding, weightlifting, heightlifting, powerlifting, and generally the gist is there is this genetic hierarchy, right? So typically I think the way people think about it is in the context of weightlifting or bodybuilding, whatever. It's like African American people is at the top, then after that is like maybe like Caucasian people. Don't say white because white don't mean anything. It's it's like you don't be consistent. It's like call people white. You should also call people yellow, Asian people yellow. But anyways, and then after that, maybe I don't know, like Latino, maybe, and then keep going down the list, and then Asians, East Asian, and then beneath that like South Asians, Indians, whatever. And so this is my theory. I don't actually think it is genetic at all. I think there are certain subpopulations which have quicker history of steroids is essentially my theory. And also a sociological thing is, you know, if you're Asian, East Asian, whatever, Korean, Chinese, Vietnamese, Asian Confucian, Eastern Asian Confucian tradition is physicality is not valorized. If anything, it's seen as backwards and base. The only thing that's valorized is intellectual matters, education. And this is why when people are like, oh, Asian people are smart, or like, you know, African American people aren't as much, I'm like, no, that's total nonsense. It's just, if you understand it from a sociological perspective, if you grow up in Asia or Korea, whatever, because the culture is so around everything about education, the parents instill that value into the kids. Whereas if you grow in the States or America, it's kind of more like the typical American doesn't really care for like getting straight A's. It's more about like glamour, fame, you know, be the quarterback, football star player, sports, I don't know, cheerleading, stuff like that. And so, you know, the reason why you don't see as many Asian guys in the NBA or whatever is because, like, you know, consider, you know, in America, right? Like, Asians are a huge minority. There's not as many Asian people in the States as, you know, compared to Caucasian or African American, etc. And also, not only on top of that, but like, the kids are actually positively discouraged from playing sports, basketball, whatever. And so as a thought experiment, you just have a smaller potential population of kids playing basketball, Asian kids playing basketball, and then eventually you'll just see fewer of them in the NBA. But you know, we got Jeremy Lin, right? Linsanity. So in the context of bodybuilding, weightlifting, right? It's not a cultural value to lift weights, and actually if you think about the history of weightlifting, bodybuilding in America, I think since Arnold, most of the guys who originally got into it were, you know, Caucasian or African American later, etc. And what was their secret thing? You know, yes, Arnold took steroids too, all of them did. They just had access to steroids way earlier, and now actually, you know, even the local gym I go to, you know, looking at dudes and conversation, even a lot of Asian guys now are like, you know, getting access to, I don't know, steroids, testosterone boosters, enhancers, I don't know, something called Tren, I don't even know, all this nonsense. And so Asian guys are getting super huge and jacked, looking like orcs, and the Incredible Hulk too, right? And so it's not genetic, it's who uses steroids better, essentially, right? And also part of it's a cultural, social thing too, is like, is getting super duper swole, getting strong, whatever, even a value? Because even the reason why, you you know, I'm quite happy with myself and my approach, etc., is, I mean, I care for physique, but I care more for physical strength. And so for me, hype lifting is 7 plates, 8 plates, whatever. It's more of fulfilling a personal curiosity of how strong I could become. And then the physicality and the physique afterwards is simply just an interesting byproduct of the really strong weightlifting, etc. And therefore, as a consequence, I don't know anybody who has as strong legs or thighs or back or a spine as I do. Everyone's like, oh, you hurt yourself weightlifting. I'm like, no. And I'm also probably the only guy who I know that I could hold 8 plates on each side on my shoulders, the Atlas lift, and I could also do some good yoga stuffs. And yeah, and so my practical, simple suggestion would be, when it comes to, weightlifting, bodybuilding, aesthetics, etc., just know that genetics is a myth, genetics is a scam. Assume that everyone's on steroids or something, right? And then what's a more interesting goal, I think, is, don't worry so much about the bodybuilding aspect, getting super duper jacked and swole. Just focus on getting really strong, right? Like, even while I do intermittent fasting, no breakfast, no lunch, I don't eat anything before lifting, drink anything, just drink black coffee during the day, water, just break my fast around like 6 or 7, 100% carnivore diet. Only non-carnivore things I eat is probably like kimchi, no sugar added. And therefore, as a consequence, I think that's why I'm so lean, which essentially means low body fat percentage. People are like, oh, do you take a cheat meal? I'm like, you want to look like a demigod, you ain't finna take no cheat meals. And even, let's consider, right, like back in the day, right, before Caucasian people, whatever, think about the Greeks, right? Ancient Greeks. Were they white? No, they're like Mediterranean, they're kind of like olive skin colored peoples, and they were, essentially the apex human category of their time. And yeah, so yeah, just focus on getting insanely strong. The physique will follow. And let us realize that, genetics in the context of weightlifting and bodybuilding is essentially racism 3.0.